Ah, so this is what it's like to be British. Greetings, my fancy viewers. Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing Paddington in Peru. This time not directed by Paul King, but instead directed by Dougal Wilson. So when it comes to the first two Paddington films, they are masterpieces. Like, everyone I know that has seen these films, either online or in person, love these movies, including myself. Paddington 1, I'm pretty sure, is the cure to depression, and Paddington 2, if God was real, it would be a Blu-ray disc of Paddington 2. These two films are just absolutely perfect. I love them to death. They're perfect for kids, perfect for adults, they're full of whimsy and joy. Now as for Paddington in Peru, that's kind of a different story. First, let me be clear and say that I do not think that Paddington in Peru is a bad movie. Far from it. But I'll be honest and say that I was a little disappointed leaving the theater after watching this. The film is about Paddington going through a grand expedition in Peru to find his missing Aunt Lucy. He's going through all these dangerous locations, meeting a bunch of colorful characters, and that's kind of already where the film starts to dip for me. Because when you take Paddington out of London, that kind of messes up the character. Paddington is a fish out of water story. It's about a bear getting used to the London lifestyle, the human lifestyle. And so when you put him back in the jungle, I don't know, it loses a bit of that charm, it's like, oh, it's a bear in the jungle now. But Paddington, going through all these misadventures in a human location, that's a bit more entertaining, a bit more charming for the character. So already, the location and story for this film already wasn't really selling me. But luckily, like the first two films, it's still filled with a lot of heart and charm. Paddington is still the most lovable character ever. I would go to war for this bear. He's such lovable and charming. He brings the good in everyone that he meets. Luckily, they get the character of Paddington still spot on. The director here, Dougal Wilson, this is actually his directorial debut. And you can tell that he has a lot of love for the character, a lot of passion for the character, because they get everything surrounding him correct. Even though I'm not a fan of him not being in London, the story revolving around him is still fine. It's very passable for a kid's film. I would say that this one is the most kid-friendly out of all the Paddington films. The first two, both kids and adults can enjoy, especially adults. And as for the humor and slapstick in the film, they never reach the funny moment of the first two. Paddington 1 has a joke in there about an orphanage that is so freaking funny. I laugh out loud every time I see it. The window cleaning scene in Paddington 2 is absolutely hilarious. There are so many good jokes in the first two films, and in here, it's okay. Like, there were a few chuckle moments, but there was never a laugh out loud moment for me watching this film. And I can see kids still liking this one. In fact, there was no one in my theater watching this, so I'm not sure if kids will like this film or not. But I think kids will like this one. It's not as funny as the first two, but there's still a few chuckles here and there. There's just something about this film that just never reaches the heights of the first two. I mean, you ever watch like a TV show or something and there's like a random episode or like a TV movie of something where like the main characters go on like a big expedition in a jungle? There have been like a few shows that do that, at least the shows that I watched when I was a kid. There were a few things like that. So this film kind of just feels like a made-for-TV movie or a straight-to-DVD movie. Again, it's not bad, but like there's just something about it that just doesn't really sit well with this film. This film also kind of seems like a straight-to-DVD movie because some of the cast doesn't return for this film. Sally Hawkins, who plays Mrs. Brown in 1 and 2, doesn't return here. Instead, we have Emily Mortimer. Now, she does a good job, but Sally Hawkins was such a huge part of the love and warming charm of the first two, so her presence is severely missed here. It's clearly noticeable that she's not in this film. I know it seems like I'm hating on this film, but I actually did enjoy it, mainly because of the character of Paddington. He's just such a good character. Like, he just warms my heart. This is a feel-good movie. It's not trying to be something, grand or massive. It's just supposed to be like a nice, fun kids film, and the film does succeed at that. But seeing how the first two, especially Paddington 2, is like praised as some of the best films ever made, this one definitely just seems a bit less. And also the plot gets really just convoluted. The film is mainly about Paddington going off to find his aunt, but then there are parts where they have to go and find El Dorado, and there's something with these like mystical bear statues and like these ancient treasure necklaces. There's a lot of things that go on in this film that are just kind of like overblown. 1 and 2 were so tight in its story, so like very just compact, and this one kind of seems like they're just throwing a bunch of things all over the place and seeing what sticks. And for the most part, it doesn't really work. But the best part of the film by far is the side characters, mainly Olivia Colman and Antonio Banderas. Olivia Colman plays a creepy nun that gives a weird smile every time she says a line, and she gives such a hilarious, charming, just bonkers performance. It's so good. She has a really weird musical number in the beginning of the film, and it's made me laugh so hard. Like, it's so good. And Antonio Banderas, he's off playing like this grand expedition guy that's also trying to find El Dorado and help Paddington find his aunt. And he has like this weird like multiple personality disorder where he's like visioning like his past selves and like his like ancestors and like talking to them. And his performance was really funny. He was absolutely like one of the highlights of the film. Though I will say he overstays his welcome a little bit near the end, but luckily his character is not annoying by any means. So as a whole, I did enjoy Paddington in Peru. I think it's a good movie, but when you compare it to the other two, it definitely has its faults. I would say this is like The Godfather Part 3 of the Paddington trilogy. Not bad at all, but when compared to the other two, it's definitely weaker. Which is why I'm gonna give Paddington in Peru the silver top hat. Like I said, not a bad movie by any means, but just a little bit disappointing. To all my fancy viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. But it's your first time hearing you like we've seen, be sure to subscribe for more content. And have you seen Paddington in Peru? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you have a fantastic night, and as always, stay fancy.